stream and go back to. I got to go. Oh no, I can't ever find the calendar from the portal page for some reason. Or at least not this calendar. All right. So as a reminder, now that it is November, final paper is due 1, 2, 3 weeks from now. Oop, don't want to do that. But yeah, the last week of November, which is also like half a week, because then we have Thanksgiving break. And and then after that is exams, our finals. So that we're getting near the end. So for us, we're going to finish the study guide today, do the test on Wednesday, and then we're going to get as much done in the next 2.5 weeks as we can. Which, that said, we do still have that Monday that we come in. This is technically still a day that we come in. So that's going to be our review day for the final. So as far as Monday, Wednesday classes, we do still have that Monday to come in and finish up whatever we have left, which again is going to be like the study guide for the final. So we will be able to, if necessary, like push to this last Monday with notes. For my Tuesday, Thursday class, this is going to have to be the review day because this Tuesday is reading day, which is this is basically the, oh crap, we didn't do any studying cram day before the finals. So this is just like a day off before everything happens. I didn't get any emails about exams, so we should be getting emails soon-ish about final schedules. So yeah, just FYI, things are very much winding down. Any questions from you guys? Okay. And as a reminder, the default topic for the final paper is just like somebody in the revolution, like just what somebody did. So if you want to, so again, for example, if you wanted to be just real lazy and do George Washington, cool. Don't give me a biography. I don't care what he did as a child or what he did as a president. Tell me what he did during the revolution, because there's way too much out there. I mean, there's even just what he did during the revolution is way more than a 2 to 3 page paper. But if you want to be easy and do that, but if you wanted to do like Deborah Sampson or Nancy Hart Morgan, you know, some of the lesser known people who did like some really great stuff during the revolution, but then otherwise they were like normal people, you can give me more than just, you can give me more background on them and then like what they did after the revolution if we have any information on that. You're welcome to do that. Otherwise, you can do whatever the hell you want. As long as it's like, as long as you stop before the end of the Civil War, because we're definitely not getting, I mean, we're not getting to the Civil War this semester, absolutely not. But that's when the material ends. So if you want to go that far, you're welcome to. Just don't go beyond that. I think that's it. All right. So we did a little bit of the study guide last time already. Let me make sure that my video is running. It is, because we're on that. Cool. Great. Now I did have to delete this stuff because we had to do a review from other class. So the last two are under William Penn, which was the walking purchase. Yes. I could put the video up. Um, yeah, I mean, this was Walking Purchase was the purchase that was used after William Penn Jr. died, um, and all of that. Yeah, So last class, and this is also for any online people who weren't paying attention. Um, at the end of the class, we still had some time left, and we just went ahead and did like the first little bit of the study guide. So that's why we're starting down here. So at the end of the video for last time is going to be the first part of the study guide, which I can just go ahead and put on Blackboard for you guys as well. So that we'll have time to finish it up and you guys can just leave early. Let's just go ahead and start with the Great Awakening. So let me find that real quick. Oh, there we go. Okay, and okay. So starting with the Great Awakening. In the colonies, what was the group that wished for Protestant churches, at least, to work together to face the crisis of diversity? Okay. This was like at the very beginning of the Great Awakening stuff. Yeah, no, it's fine. In the colonies, what was the group that wished for at least Protestant churches to work together to face the crisis of diversity? So, like, they weren't split among denominations, they were just like overall Christian doctrine, or at least Protestant doctrine, because you can't have Catholics. Protestant doctrine above denominational teachings. Yes. The New Light clergy, which were mostly the ones that were pushing the Great Awakening to begin with, because they had all sorts of new ideas and such. And to make things simple, which group wished to remain in the old ways and stuck to established traditional sects? SECTS, because I always slur that word. The Old Light clergy. See, multiple choice is easy when you get one of them. The Old Light clergy. Because, yeah, there were certain established traditions in the colonies already, and the New Light clergy pushed against that. All right. Let's see. What was the name of the intellectual movement which the Great Awakening was partially a response to? This intellectual movement was like almost a century before. Yes, I was going to say, but it was still very much being felt throughout the world. Really, there's not really, I was going to say the colonies, but just in general, the world. The Enlightenment. Okay. What group of German Protestants pushed for people to follow their heart rather than their head in spiritual matters? And the reason they're important is because this thought spread throughout the colonies for the Great Awakening. Good enough. Pietists. You know, it's not an oral exam, it's fine. And it's multiple choice too, so that's the only thing anywhere near that. Yeah, Pietists. And going with the thought process that the Pietists put forward, was one of the two colleges in the colonies at the time of the Great Awakening which used learned discourse rather than passion to teach new ministers? Yes. So one of them's Harvard, and if you want both of them, the other is William and Mary. Oh, actually, College of. Of. All right. Got a little more. Yeah. Who was the minister who used networks of communication and travel to quickly spread his word, rapidly spreading the ideas of the Great Awakening? George Whitefield. Yeah, he's the only name you guys need to worry about for the Great Awakening. Sounds like Brent is in the technology closet behind me. Um. Okay, one more question. Do 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 do. This is another. This is one that's difficult to ask for this because it's a true false. Did the Great Awakening create greater unity or division among congregations uh, in the end? How was the Great Awakening defined? I guess would be the best way to put it. Like overall, did it unify congregations or did it split them up into more diverse? Yeah, because hold on, let's see. Great caused division. Because there were so many like denominations that had real strict hierarchies and such, and then the new light clergy basically just split off into their own things, and then the things that split off had their own ideas, and then they split off. So that's why we have like 900 denominations or something in the U.S. Um, Increasing seemingly every day. Yeah. In a few instances, there were denominations that are not denominations, congregations that did reunify, but for the most part, congregations split and created their own churches, which has been a thing since the Protestant Reformation. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, I didn't really do the whole like political awakening crap because it wasn't that interesting. So on to Wars and Empire. If I can get my mouse where I need it to be. The hell, there we go. See, because it shouldn't be over here because this is a yeah. This isn't a separate screen anymore. Okay. Um. So before the war even started, and this is talking about the war against France. What was a term for forced recruitment into typically British Royal Navies, which often resulted in citywide protests? This is the term for forced recruitment into usually the British Navy, and it often resulted in citywide protests. So specifically naval forced recruitment. You get dragged off the street and thrown onto a boat. So specific term for this would be the next chapter. So specific term for getting thrown into the Navy. Yes, impressment. Yeah, because you are. The term for the people who went out and would drag you off the street and onto the ship were called press gangs. So it was impressment. You were pressed onto the ship. What was what war against France increased tensions in the North American colonies against British rulership? So what was the war against France in North America? The big war prior to the Revolutionary War. Yes. You will not find French and Indian War on this test. I refuse. Because I make the test, damn it. I can't get to call it what I want. Alright. Speaking of the 7 Years' War, who's the British politician who turned things around in North America during the 7 Years' War? Came over and really, really helped us out. I mean, we were all British citizens at the time, but yeah. Speaking of the 7 Years' War, who's the British politician who turned things around in North America during the 7 Years' War? Who was where I'm at? The British politician who turned things around in North America during the 7 Years' War. We had a few years where the French were whooping us pretty good, and then he came over and actually had a strategy. I know Grenville is a prime minister. He comes up later. Now this guy, we named a city after him. Which also kind of shows how close the French were. Yes, William Pitt. We got Pittsburgh. Let's name it after this guy. All right. Um, and I mean, I basically just asked this on the study guide. Where did the proclamation line of 1763 set the western limit of settlement? What natural border was the limit of how far the colonists could settle? Westward, anyway. Well, no, I said that I basically asked the question up here. The proclamation line of 1763 set the western limit at what, like, natural border? Because following the war, they won more land than this, but due to issues with Native Americans and whatnot, Britain set the border closer. So where was that border? The Appalachian Mountains. Yeah, the mountains right to the west of us. Make sure I spell it right, otherwise the ghost might get me. Cool thing about the Appalachians, I mean, there's a lot of weird things about the Appalachians, but like there's caves in the Appalachians that are so old, they don't have fossils. Like they're older than fossils, which means they were around before we had life on the planet. So yeah, they are very old mountains. Okay, um, let's see. Ah, yes, here we go. Now, after the war, Britain was kind of broke, so they had to pass acts and whatnot to raise money. So, unfortunately for you guys, that means you need to know a bunch of names of acts and whatnot. But I did put some hints in the questions that hopefully will help out. So, the first major act passed by Parliament, meant to raise money, yada yada yada. This was specifically meant to stop smuggling in the Caribbean. Yes, good. Navigation Act. And the reason for me, that's a hint, is since it's smuggling in the Caribbean, they're using ships. And if you're on a sailing ship in the 1700s, you need to have proper navigation or you're going to get lost and die. So, yeah. And also this, a student asked me in my previous class, this also was the same act that made it so you had to bring anything you were going to sell to London first to get taxed before you could bring it anywhere else. So it was a whole thing. That part isn't on the test, but that is the same act. Okay. So the colonists wanted representation in Parliament, which Parliament responded by putting a tax on all legal documents. What is this called? This one's pretty easy. So this was a tax on legal documents and also playing cards for some reason. The Stamp Act. Yeah, so this was a stamp on just paperwork, which again, like, was a big freak out for the Americans who had enough money to even bother with paperwork. Okay, this one I don't have as much hint about. I can give you the hint after. Well, we'll see. What was the name of yet another act of Parliament which taxed goods like glass, paper, and tea? And the only hint I can really give you is that technically it's more than one act. Yes, because it's Townshend Acts, plural. And that's the only one on the test that's plural. So, because it's multiple, technically it's multiple separate acts, and they were collectively known as the Townshend Acts. So, yeah, that's all I got for that one. Sorry, it was important though. Okay, gotta go back here real quick. Due to increased taxes, tension rose in the colonies, etc., etc. What was the name of the violent clash between protesters and British soldiers in Boston in the winter of 1770? Boston Massacre. There are going to be a few in here that you all should probably know, just like off the top of your head. I mean, you should all know these, period, because you're in my class, but you should all know these just automatically. Obviously, colonists would not take this lying down. They set out to destroy British property, in particular 45 tons of tea. What was this event called? The Boston Tea Party. And finally, the British responded to this After the unrest and violence in Boston, which we just went over, Britain closed the port of Boston, revoked its charter, set up a quartering act. All of these were collectively known as the Coercive Acts. What did the colonists call them? I think I heard that right. Say that again. Okay, yeah, that's what I heard. I just want to make sure y'all were slightly off sync. Tolerable acts. Very good. And for this section, before we get to like the proper revolution, yep. Who is the former politician and head of the Sons of Liberty who led the opposition to the British in Boston? This guy that led the Sons of Liberty. Yeah, Samuel Adams. He did more than just brew beer. He was also a terrorist. Okay. On to the revolution. Most of these are pretty straightforward. Where were the first shots of the American War for Independence fired? No, where were they? Where was the first shots fired? Yeah, Lexington. I mean, it's the same event, but yeah, Paul Revere was. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean Lexington and Concord, but Lexington came first. And speaking of that, what was the name of the militiamen who formed across the colonies, but especially Massachusetts, who prided themselves on being prepared to rapidly counter any British aggression? The Minutemen. Minutemen. Do 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 do. Where did the first major battle of the war take place? Because Lexington and Concord we got a couple of shots off and then we ran because the British had a lot more guys and they knew what they were doing. But this was an actual proper battle. We still lost, but we really hurt the British. Yes. Which most commonly just called Bunker Hill. I specifically had him in the notes. Also, Breeds Hill was there. But yeah, we most commonly know it as just Bunker Hill. First I thought you were saying like Green something. I was like, this is the wrong place. But yeah, Breeds Hill and Bunker Hill. Yeah, so Bunker Hill was like the main big thing that really showed, hey, we're actually fighting this thing. And following the Battle of Bunker Hill, and I hope everyone gets this, who was chosen to lead the Continental Army following Bunker Hill? No, who led the Continental Army? That's us. Yeah. I mean, you're correct. That General Howe was leading the British, but the Continental Army, that's us. All right. A couple of more individuals that maybe aren't as well known as, say, Washington, but still very important. Who wrote Common Sense in 1776? I've got no other hints to give you. You just need to know this guy's name. Here at the pamphlet, Common Sense. Thomas Paine. Which is, this is just important. You just got to know that. Also, another true false. So it's a weird way to ask it for this. Was the war? Was the war very popular among just like across the board socioeconomic spectrum with all the colonists? No, it was. I mean, again, I gave you guys like a percentage. It was like a third supported the war, and a third were loyalists, and then the other third were just like didn't want to get involved at all. So, yeah, this wasn't a everybody in the colonies were now super wanting to be American. So, was not especially popular. Okay, another guy that you're just gonna kind of need to know, who expressed the social contract theory in regards to the call for independence. And this was back during the Enlightenment era, so he wasn't really around anymore. But we use his work a lot. In fact, if you read his work, it feels like he was ripping off the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, but no, no, no. Thomas Jefferson was ripping off his work. This guy was like 100 years before Jefferson. It's expressive social contract theory, um, about like rulership and whatnot. He was he English or was he Scottish? I'm getting him mixed up with somebody else. I think he was from Great Britain, regardless. I think he was British. I'm thinking of Hobbes was the Scottish guy. John Locke. John Locke was the guy that who had put into words, "Hey, if the government isn't doing what we need it to do, then we can just overthrow the government." And we took that and ran with it. All right. Oh, well, yeah, we're not quite. We still got quite a bit here. What battle was seen as the turning point of the war? I told you guys, hey, this is a super important battle that we all should remember because of various reasons. It was basically seen as a turning point because we got some help afterwards. But it also showed we could handle England in a stand-up fight and not just run from them. Yes. Saratoga, very good. Usually, when people are guessing on that, they guess the final battle of the war because that's the only other battle they really remember. It's like, I mean, that's not really a turning point. That's more like the end, the book end of the war. But okay. Um, Also, who commanded the Battle of Saratoga? Who was the main American general there? We had a few. We had actually, I think, like two or three there. But this is like the main guy that was running the battle for the Americans. Who? What's his last name? Okay, then it's not him because he's got an easy to pronounce last name. Yes, Benedict Arnold. I figured you could pronounce Arnold. I mean, Benedict might look difficult, but Arnold I think you could pronounce. So I think you were looking at the wrong name. Yeah, Benedict Arnold, because again, before the whole like treason thing, he was pretty important in the war. And finally, and this is the main reason why Saratoga was so important. What country? What country officially joined the war following this turning point battle? Yes, I was gonna say I'll give you a hint. We're fighting England, so who's getting involved? Yes, France joined in, and that was a big deal. Like a, I don't know if we'd have won the war if they hadn't. Big deal. But obviously, we're not gonna spend too much time on that with certain levels of history. Um. Okay. Do 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 do. Uh. What was the name of the German mercenaries that Washington and his men routed near Trenton, New Jersey, around Christmas of 1776? And just in general, they were the German mercenaries that the British hired. Yeah, the Hessians. Do I have any? Okay. What was the name of the patriot woman who disguised herself as a man and fought as a soldier against the British? Eventually, she got a captain's commission before being honorably discharged. Yes, Deborah Sampson. Is there a P in her last name? I don't remember. Okay. I couldn't remember when I wrote it down. All right. Also, which side did the slaves tend to support in the war? The British. Yeah, because the British were actually offering them freedom, and I mean, that's the better deal. And also, just remember, like, this was seen as basically a little civil war. This wasn't seen as a new country is going to be born, and it's going to be completely different from Britain. It's like these were British dudes fighting British dudes. Like, there wasn't that much of a difference for the people caught in the middle. Speaking of slavery, though, um, what was the first state to officially abolish slavery in their state constitution? Vermont. Yeah, Vermont's just like from the start. Hey, we don't, we don't need slaves. Let's just not. And that was the day Bernie Sanders was born. 1776. 1777, I think, actually, when the Constitution was made. But yeah, he was born a little old man. All right, I think that's actually it for that section. And then we get to the end of the war. It's like Benjamin Button, but he just never grew young. Anyway, um, where did the final major battle of the war take place? Because it did say there were smaller like skirmishes after, but those don't really count. So this was the last like big battle of the war that technically ended the war, even though it took 2 more years for the treaty to be ratified. Yorktown, that was the last big one. Big old Yorktown. We had Washington and Lafayette and Rochambeau and a whole bunch of guys all hitting Yorktown. Cornwallis was not in a good spot. Speaking though, actually, let's go. Okay, yeah. Um, what did the British get out of the war? Like what land territory did they win? Hmm? What did Britain get out of the war? Yes, exactly. I was gonna say it's sort of a trick question because when you think of the Revolutionary War, it's like we won, and then that was it. But like, no, actually, Britain got a lot out of it too because they got to keep Canada. Because we tried to take Canada a couple of times, but the British kept pushing us back, and they managed to keep Canada, which was like there's a lot of natural resources up there that they were able to use. So yeah, Britain got out of the war pretty okay, uh, relatively speaking. Um, what nation regained Florida thanks to their somewhat late entry to the war, opposing the British? Spain. If it's Florida, it's usually Spain. What was the name of the treaty that ended the war? Okay, we got plenty of time. Ended the war in the colonies and created the fledgling United States of America. Treaty of Paris. Again, it's almost always the Treaty of Paris. Although it's weird that, because usually Paris is like kind of the neutral place, but like they were on our side. That wasn't really a neutral zone. We should have gone to like, I don't know, Brussels or something. Um, and finally, how far did the United States stretch? Which is to say, what natural border was the new limit? Sorry, how far west? I knew there was a word there that I was just leaving out. How far west did the United States stretch? Which is to say, what yeah, border was the new limit of territory? Mississippi River. Right, we had everything west to the Mississippi, north to Canada, and south to Florida. Which is to say, kind of what we had as the British colonies, more or less. Um, so yeah, and that's it. And obviously, there's extra credit, but um, you guys will just need to pay attention for that. Um, yeah, we'll just do the test on Wednesday. Any questions about anything? I will put the video up on Blackboard. I'll just toss this one up there too. Might as well. Um, but oh yes. Let me roll back up here real quick. He was the leader of yeah. He was the head of the Sons of Liberty. Oh, they're not all multiple choice. Um, in fact, let's see. Was Sam Adams a short answer? There aren't that many short answer actually. There's 40 multiple choice. That's the most I think I've ever done. So there's like, well, 10 that you have to write out. So it's not too bad. I mean, literally one of the one you have to write out is George Washington. So like, y'all be okay. Yeah, sometimes I do get a little much on the short answer, but at this time a lot of it's multiple choice. Um, Especially because I had all those like acts and stuff, and I was like, well, I can just do four acts and then just have each one as a choice. Okay. Yeah. So see y'all on Wednesday. Have a good day. Don't have any other questions, just let me know. But otherwise, take care. I'll see y'all then. And for you online folks, I'll be putting the test up online on Wednesday. Unless Blackboard explodes, but who knows?